Hey guys, how's it going? Nick here and welcome back to another video. Today we're doing a review on the FeiyuTech AK2000 gimbal. I've been using it now for a few weeks, professionally and on the side, so I thought I'd give you my final sort of opinion on what I think of this gimbal. So quickly break down the specs. So the FeiyuTech AK2000 is a sub $400 gimbal with a 6-pound or roughly 3-kilogram payload. So going to be great for the majority of cameras on the market. It's built out of, metal, aluminum. It's got the angled rear motor so you can see the back of the LCD screen, has smartphone connectivity and everything you really need in a gimbal. So I want to start off this review by talking about the negatives because I've had a couple that have popped up whilst using it, and the biggest one has been the quick release trigger or latch on the base plate here. So it does come with a Manfrotto style quick release plate that you attach to your camera, and then that just slides into the gimbal like so. And then it has this locking latch here. Now, I've found that this latch, unless you have it very loosely latched, is incredibly stiff to release. This can be a bit of a pain, especially when you've got your camera balanced on there and you're out, outside where things can get dirty, there's rocks everywhere, you don't want your camera to fall over, you don't really want that anyway, and you're sitting there and you're really like struggling to unlatch your camera. And that's probably been the biggest downside for myself. And because my camera setup is relatively heavy, it's like on the top end of what this gimbal can safely carry, my plate was not really locked in by this base locking pin. So I really had to rely on that latch. And again, so I was obviously using it a lot. It was a bit of a pain. I feel like it's not going to be a bigger issue with lighter setups, but because I really relied on it, I needed it tight and it was just really hard to unlatch. The second downside I have are these tripod feet here. On like the Ronin S and the Moser Air 2, these have like a rubberized grip to them, which is really good. Obviously it's grippier. These are just plain aluminum, which means they get really, really cold. So even on days where it might not necessarily be cold enough to wear gloves, when you're operating this and you're holding it down the bottom here because you don't have enough room to have like two hands, it's sort of a bit annoying. Another thing is that unlike the Ronin S, where these feet sort of nicely fit together, these sort of go past the first sort of point of resistance. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically it means that when you're holding the gimbal, these feet still move around in your hand, and it just, although it is stable, it feels less stable, and it's just it's not a big deal, right? It still works, it still holds the gimbal, they're not falling apart anytime soon. It just feels a little weird when you're using it, as opposed to, say, the more expensive gimbals. But then again, you're saving $400, so you assume that there will be some sort of caveat here or there. And my third real gripe is just sort of how the mode functions are laid out in the gimbal. I tend to find myself as someone who doesn't need to read a manual. Generally, things are intuitive enough for me to just jump in and just sort of nut it out. But some of the features in this gimbal I knew it had, just couldn't access, just without, I had to actually go online and look at a manual to figure out how to access them. And it's just because there's a mode button, there's a touch screen, you've got triggers over here, buttons over there. It's not as intuitive as the Ronin S, which I was able to pick up and start using straight away without looking at a manual. So, I mean, again, it's user error really, but I like it when tech is intuitive to use, and it's just not with this. But again, if you're new to gimbals, reading the manual is probably not the worst thing you can do. So from there, I want to move on to the positives. Number one is the price. Like I said, it's a sub $400 gimbal. You can find this on sale from anywhere from $299 to $350. So absolute bargain of a gimbal, especially with that 6-pound payload, which is in line with the Weebill Lab from Zhiyun. So a really great gimbal for the price and a great feature set. In terms of the modes, it has everything you would want. So it has a sports mode, so you can whip pan really quickly. It does have that inception mode where you can hold the gimbal out, have the camera sort of rotate 360 degrees. I couldn't get that to work for myself, but that's just because my setup, the Z6 with the 24-70 f2.8, is just like on that top end I think it weighs like 2.8 kilos. And so it just couldn't work with this. It's a bit of a shame. I'd love to have tried it out, but it is there. All the buttons, although I did complain about them just before about not being intuitive, they're very nice and clicky. Everything feels very high quality, even though it's sort of considered a budget gimbal. It's really nice having that touch screen there. Like the Ronin S doesn't even have that, so being able to see what mode you're in and be able to switch that way is really awesome to have. And like I said in my unboxing video, you want to check that out up there. The joystick on the FeiyuTech gimbal, and I think all their gimbals in general, is just better in my opinion compared to the others. I find that the Moza and the Ronin S have like more trigger style joysticks. I don't know what you want to call them. They point out a bit more. They're less comfortable to rest your thumb on, and I found that I would always accidentally bump them. So I'd be using my gimbal, camera starts moving, oh, it's a bit of a pain. Whereas this one has a flat sort of thumb pad style joystick, and I just prefer this so much more to the other options. Build quality is top notch, and it's really easy to adjust. It's just pretty much like every other gimbal on the market now with that 45-degree angled rear motor. It makes it very easy to adjust, and again, it does come with the quick release plate, even if it is a little bit fiddly. You do have a smartphone app just like the others. I've used that previously in the past with the, I think it was the A2000 gimbal I reviewed last year. If you want to check that out. The app is great. It works as intended. I couldn't, however, the app is great, works as intended. You're able to set up the time-lapse functionality, control your motor speeds and all that. It's on par with the others that are out there. And it's really easy to pair. It's like automatic, so that's great. It's like I said, it's on par with everything else that's out there. I find that all the apps from Zhiyun, DJI, they're all pretty much the same, do the same things, and it works. You can control your camera with this gimbal with the supplied cables that come in the package. I couldn't get it to work with the Z6. I'm not sure if this is a user error. I seem to be having a bit of trouble operating this. I'm blonde, maybe it's that, but I couldn't quite get it to work. The Z6 is a newer camera though, so maybe that's it. I don't know. But I have seen videos online of people getting this to work with the Sony a7 III, with Canon cameras, so I know it can be done. I couldn't get it to work. And I guess the next thing that I absolutely love about this gimbal is just the fact that this thing just compacts down into a really nice small portable package so that anyone with even a small camera bag can carry this around. Hell, I have a messenger bag and this can fit in it. Probably not the most comfortable way to carry around a gimbal, but it works. Anyway guys, that's it for this review. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I really think for those of you in the market for a gimbal that don't really want to cough out that $600-700 price tag for the Ronin S or the Zhiyun Crane Weeble Lab and all those ones, this is definitely worth your time. Take a look at it. There are links in the description below for you to check it out. And until the next video, see ya.